Morning. I'm Travis. This is Bianca. Welcome to Bible Coffee and happy Thanksgiving. Hope this day is starting out wonderfully for you all, and I hope you all find many blessings as this is a crazy Thanksgiving this year. A lot of us are meeting with each other by Zoom and all that stuff, trying to get together. So I hope it's starting out well for you, and I'm very thankful that you all have joined us here as we dig into the next chapter of Genesis. Today it's chapter 47. Let's dive right in. Please remember, I'll be reading from the column on the right, the JPS Tanakh translation. The column on the left is the NRSV. You are invited to follow along on either side or in your Bibles at home, or just listen as we read. Then Joseph came and reported to Pharaoh, saying, "My father and my brothers with their flocks and herds and all that is theirs have come from the land of Canaan and are now in the region of Goshen." And selecting a few of his brothers, he presented them to Pharaoh. Pharaoh said to his brothers, "What is your occupation?" They answered Pharaoh, "We, your servants, are shepherds, as were also our fathers. We have come," they told Pharaoh, "to sojourn in this land, for there is no pasture for your servants' flocks, the famine being severe in the land of Canaan. Pray then, let your servants stay in the region of Goshen." Then Pharaoh said to Joseph, "As regards your father and your brothers who have come to you, the land of Egypt is open before you. Settle your father and your brothers in the best part of the land. Let them stay in the region of Goshen, and if you know any capable men among them, put them in charge of my livestock." Joseph then brought his father Jacob and presented him to Pharaoh. And Jacob greeted Pharaoh. Pharaoh asked Jacob, "How many are the years of your life?" And Jacob answered Pharaoh, "The years of my sojourn on earth are 130. Few and hard have been the years of my life, nor do they come up to the lifespans of my fathers during their sojourns." Then Jacob bade Pharaoh farewell and left Pharaoh's presence. So Joseph settled his father and his brothers, giving them holdings in the choicest part of the land of Egypt, in the region of Ramses, as Pharaoh had commanded. Joseph sustained his father and his brothers and all his father's household with bread, down to the little ones. Now there was no bread in all the world, for the famine was very severe. Both the land of Egypt and the land of Canaan languished because of the famine. Joseph gathered in all the money that was to be found in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan as payment for the rations that were being procured. And Joseph brought the money into Pharaoh's palace. And when the money gave out in the land of Egypt and in the land of Canaan, all the Egyptians came to Pharaoh and said, "Give us bread, lest we die before your very eyes, for the money is gone." And Joseph said, "Bring your livestock, and I will sell to you against your livestock if the money is gone." So they brought their livestock to Joseph, and Joseph gave them bread in exchange for the horses, for the stocks of sheep and cattle and the asses. Thus he provided them with bread that year in exchange for all their livestock. And when that year was ended, they came to him, and the next year said to him, "We cannot hide from my lord that with all the money and animal stocks consigned to my lord, nothing is left at my lord's disposal save our persons and our farmland. Let us not perish before your eyes, both we and our land. Take us and our land in exchange for bread, and we with our land will be serfs to Pharaoh. Provide the seed that we may live and not die, so that the land may not become a waste." So Joseph gained possession of all the farmland of Egypt for Pharaoh, every Egyptian having sold his field because the famine was too much for them. Thus the land passed over to Pharaoh, and he removed the population town by town, from one end of Egypt's border to the other. Only the land of the priests he did not take over, for the priests had an allotment from Pharaoh. They lived off the allotment which Pharaoh had made to them. Therefore they did not sell their land. Then Joseph said to the people, "Whereas I have this day acquired you and your land for Pharaoh, here is seed for you to sow the land. And when harvest comes, you shall give 1/5 to Pharaoh, and 4/5 shall be yours as seed for the fields. As for you, and those in your households, and as nourishments for your children." And they said, "You have saved our lives. We are grateful to my lord, and we shall be serfs to Pharaoh." And Joseph made it into a land law in Egypt, which is still valid, that a fifth should be Pharaoh's. Only the land of the priests did not become Pharaoh's. Thus Israel settled in the country of Egypt in the region of Goshen. They acquired holdings in it and were fertile and increased greatly. Jacob lived 17 years in the land of Egypt, so that the span of Jacob's life came to 147 years. And when the time approached for Israel to die, he summoned his son Joseph and said to him, "Do me this favor. Place your hand under my thigh as a pledge of your steadfast loyalty. Please do not bury me in Egypt. When I lie down with my fathers, take me up from Egypt and bury me in their burial place." He replied, "I will do as you have spoken." And he said, "Swear to me." And he swore to him. Then Israel bowed at the head of the bed. The grass withers and the flower fades, but the word of the Lord lives forever. And this is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. I can hardly believe that we are already coming upon the end of Israel's life. Seems like just yesterday Jacob was born and he was wrestling with Esau for that first place. A few interesting things that I find in this passage. One, right from the start, they've gotten their story straight as they're talking to Pharaoh. They know what to say. They know that they are going to tell him that they are keepers of livestock, that they're shepherds. Egyptians aren't fond of shepherds, therefore they might have lied about it. But they got their story straight. They told Pharaoh, and Pharaoh responded warmly and told Joseph to settle his family in the finest part of the land, which they did. And I love when Pharaoh meets Israel and Jacob, and he asks them, "How old are you?" Makes me wonder, how old did Jacob look by that time? I bet he looked like he had a few years under his belt, because he'd been through an awful lot of stress. And his response is even better. "My years are few. I'm only 130. My years have been few and hard, and it's nothing compared to my ancestors and their sojourns. They lived a lot longer than I did." I wonder how Pharaoh took that. I wonder how long people elsewhere in Egypt, for example, lived at that time, because he didn't seem to have a wild response to how long Jacob lived, or his long years being described as so few. We don't get that. We just get that and then they bade each other farewell. Joseph settled his family in the finest part of the land. And notice here that Pharaoh made a point to ask Joseph for anybody who was really good at keeping livestock to take care of Pharaoh's livestock. And then what proceeds to happen in the chapter, that the people in the land run out of money to buy the food that they've been storing up to feed everybody. And through this negotiation process between the people and Joseph requests their livestock as a form of payment. So the livestock becomes Egypt's, and Joseph might be putting some of his own guys in charge of the livestock. Kind of a coincidence, maybe not so coincidental. And then going further, we find a translation difference in this version versus the NRSV. I don't know if you're reading on the NRSV side. On the NRSV side, after some more time passes and they don't have any more livestock to give, they offer themselves in their land and they become serfs. Well, the translation difference in the NRSV is that they become slaves. In the Tanakh, they become serfs, and there is a big difference in between that, even though a serf lives a life that's not a whole lot above a slave. But when I was reading it in the NRSV, I was feeling like, oh, this is the beginning of the slavery that we are familiar with in Exodus. So it seems that it may still be the beginning of that, but they didn't start out as slaves as far as the Tanakh is concerned. They started out as serfs. And basically, as we see in the passage, a big difference is a slave gets nothing. These folks get to keep some of what they grow on the land that they're tending. And I love how thankful the people are to become serfs and having given up their land. I don't feel like I would have been so happy about having to become a serf. I would have just said, "Pharaoh, why don't you just give us the food?" But they made a fair enough trade, I guess. They gave something to get something, and they became serfs, and they were very thankful about it. You have saved our lives. And if you remember all in the story, this was all about Joseph being sent ahead to save lives, and here the people are acknowledging that his actions have saved their lives. Because of his dreams and his foresight, he was able to know that the famine was coming. He was able to help the people cope with that. And then we get down to where Jacob and the family have settled in the land of Egypt, and they lived there for 17 years. After 17 years in Egypt, the time approaches where Jacob knows that he's going to die before long. So he calls Joseph and makes him swear that he will take him back out of Egypt and back into the land of Canaan. I think that may be a little something of where God is speaking to us. Now, when I mention that God is speaking to us in a certain place, that's definitely a place that I see that happening, but of course God may be speaking in other places, so please don't ever limit it to that. But where I see God speaking, especially in this time, Thanksgiving, weird Thanksgiving, not being able to get together with everybody like we'd like to, some of us may not be exactly where we want to be on this Thanksgiving day. Physically, we may be at home getting together with loved ones over Zoom, the internet, whatever. Well, here Jacob, he doesn't really want to be in the land of Egypt. He didn't want to be there in the first place other than to see his son Joseph, but they were in a predicament that ended up bringing them all back together. But he was in a predicament to where they had to go find food in Egypt. Now they're staying there because that's where the food is, and Jacob wants to be with Joseph, but Jacob also wants to be in his homeland. We see that as he knows he's about to die, he makes Joseph promise to take him back to his homeland at the time of his death for his burial. And he's talking about Hebron. Yes, folks, Hebron, where we've had quite a few pictures. So whatever our situations, we might be able to learn a little something from Jacob, being content living in the land of Egypt for the meantime. Though these times are crazy for us, we may not be exactly where we want to be, but hopefully we can find a way to find some contentment with being creative in how we get together with people, maintaining our connections, knowing that we are not completely separated, although we're not exactly where we want to be at the moment. Perhaps God is giving us some encouragement to be patient, to find comfort in the ways that we are able to get together, whether or not it's physically, to lean on each other as we are all going through this together. The Lord knows there have been an awful lot of people who have died in these times, whether because of COVID or something else. And we seem to get one more reminder of the importance of treating a person well and trying to fulfill their wishes as they approach death. You know, what we have is precious, whether or not it's exactly what we want it to be. And much more important than where we are physically is that we can have good and healthy, repaired relationships with one another, and that we can find a way to go forward together in grace. Well, I don't know, but the picture from last time, we've got a winner chicken dinner. I guess it's turkey dinner today. Congratulations, Linda. Great job. Again, she figured out where in Jericho this picture was taken. And of course, this is the second picture of this place in Jericho. The first one was of Jesus' baptism. This one is Jesus on a dome as you look straight up. And where this is the Monastery of the Temptation. It's a monastery up on a mountain just right there by Jericho. And it's very impressive that Linda, you once again figured out where this was. Now, this being Thanksgiving and all, we're going to take a break from all the work to figure out where these pictures are being taken. So I'm going to show you one more picture from this Monastery of the Temptation in Jericho. Check it out. There is just so much beautiful artwork in this place, and I'll have to do a whole lot more research to figure out when some of this artwork was done, but you can bet that it's ancient, especially in seeing how some of it's done. So I'd encourage you to do a little more of your own research. Check out the Monastery of the Temptation by Jericho. See where it is, a fascinating place. We actually had to take a cable car up there, so let's show you a picture of that. Oh. To get from Jericho up to this place, there is a cable car that you can ride, so you don't have to walk up the mountain, although you can walk up the mountain if you want to. and it's way up there. You get fascinating views of the place, and it's just something that I'm enjoying getting to share with you all. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for spending this time. Thank you for investing your own time in the scriptures and in this time of learning and fellowship together with me and with Bianca, who fell asleep. I hope you all stayed awake out there. But happy Thanksgiving. May the Lord bless you and keep you and give you peace this day. May the Lord bless your gatherings, whether they be in person or online or whatever it may be. And may the Lord bless you wherever you are in your life, whether or not you're very happy with where exactly you are physically. But may the Lord also bless you and your loved ones and your connection, that you all may be together where we are called to be spiritually. Again, God bless you. See you next time.